Hi, I'd like to do the King and Queen versus Lone King Endgame, where the King and Queen um hunt down the Lone King to checkmate the Lone King. Um, I I'm gonna use the opposition um between the two kings sometimes. Um, a good a good place to go for that definition of what an opposition is between kings. I recommend looking up an international master at chess, John Bartholomew. He does a really good description on what opposition means between the two kings. It's an important concept in chess. So yeah, I'd go look up his videos. I'll talk about his videos in the description. John Bartholomew, an international master at chess. And so King and Queen versus Lone King. And there's a type of draw called 50 move rule. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's something along the lines of if both sides have moved either 49 or 50 times consecutively. I don't know if it's 49 or 50 times consecutive moves between them at any point in time in the chess game without a pawn move by either side or a capture by either side. The person to play can claim a draw if they can prove it's been 50 moves without any pawn moves being made or any captures occurring. Um, I've never claimed a draw by 50 move rule, so I'm not exactly sure how it works. I don't know if it's on the 50th move or on the 51st move you can claim a draw, but you got to be able to prove it. The last lot of moves, 50 or 50, 49 or 50 moves, had no pawn moves or captures made. So I say this because white has to, in this case, we're going to be doing the checkmate as white. The white king and queen are hunting down the lone black king. So, like, white's got about 50 moves roughly to checkmate, otherwise, it'll be a draw by the 50 move rule because black will claim the 50 move rule draw. To, to succeed, white's going to have to involve both the king and the queen, both of them, to hunt down the lone king. And the black king must be trapped on one of the edges of the board, one of the four edges. So we've got the H vertical row of squares. That's one edge, the H vertical row. And then we've got the first rank, horizontal row of squares. It's another edge that the black king could be trapped on. Hard to do this on my phone. The A file, the A vertical row of squares is another edge that the black king can be trapped on. And then we've got the eighth rank, the eighth horizontal row of squares the black king can be trapped on. So we've got to drive the king, like push him to one of the edges of the board before we can checkmate with the king and queen versus lone king. If he's in the center, we'll never checkmate him with this material. We need more material to checkmate in the center of the board. So the king can only be checkmated if he's on the edge with king and queen versus himself. So yeah, I recommend looking up John Bartholomew on YouTube and learn about opposition with kings because I'm going to be talking about it a fair bit in this. But I won't describe it because I don't know how to describe what it is. So we're going to put these over here. Notice that the white queen cuts off the where are we? Yeah, the E file, the E vertical row of squares. So the king cannot stand on the E file, the E vertical row of squares, because the queen would be checking the king. So if the king steps over here, he's in check from the queen, which is illicit. So he's cut off on that side of the board. He can't step over here without stepping in the check from the queen. So we want to just leave the queen on the E line for now to stop the king going to that side of the board. We want to take space away from the king. If the queen were to give a check, then the king can just dance around the center of the board. We don't get anywhere. No progress will be made, and 50 moves will pass before you know it, and black will claim a draw from the 50 move rule. Because no pawns will be moved, no captures will be made, and there'll be no checkmate, so it'll be a draw from the 50 move rule. So, see how nothing's happening. Black's just in the center. All these checks are useless. So, try not to give a check for no reason. Just because you can check the opponent's king doesn't mean anything. It's got to be done strategically. Giving checks, you got to gain something from it. So in this position, I'd grab the opposition. Again, the queen cuts off the black king from stepping over here. So we can't go over here because the queen cuts all that off. So the black king is limited to this side of the board. Can't go over here because the queen cuts him off. And now the king could go directly backwards. We'd go directly forwards, getting the opposition. Like if black just keeps doing this move, we'd just keep taking the opposition. Keep taking the opposition. Remember that we can never go over here with the black king because the queen attacks those squares with check. And so if the king goes back, we go forward. Now the only possible move for black is to go over here. Now we don't give a check, no checks, we don't do this. It's pointless because then the king can get out. The king's on the edge where we wanted him, but we've just chased him off the edge. So he's gone back to the middle of the board where we can't lose. So we don't give a check because he gets out. So what we do instead is we stop the queen on F. No, not F. Queen on E2 rather. Queen on E2. So the black king is stuck along the first rank on the edge of the board. So we want to trap the king on one of the four edges of the board. In this case, it's the first rank, the first horizontal row of squares. So now the king is stuck along there. We can work on checkmating him. But it's black's move. So what we do here is we let black move first of all because he has the move. Only move is to go here. And what we do here is the king chases the king. So we want to line up with the opponent's king, so we chase it to go toward it. We don't give a check. We don't do this because then the king just gets off the back. We let him out. We want to trap him on the edge. We don't do this either because it's the same thing. The king gets out. The queen is like the queen is keeping the king along the edge of the board, trapping him along the edge. So instead, the king chases the king. So we do this. If the king lines up with the opponent's king, that's a very bad idea because there's 3 ways to be checkmated in this position. The queen could go here, checkmate supported by her king defending her while she delivers a checkmate. We could go checkmate on e1, and the king can't go forward without being in check from the opponent's king. Or we could go queen f1, checkmate. Again, the king can't go forward because the white king will capture. So this is checkmate. So instead of going to c1 and getting checkmated, we want to run away from the offensive king. So the defending king wants to run away, doesn't want to line up with the offending king. The aggressive offending king, we could chase, which works. It's just a little slow, but it's perfectly fine. In this case, like it just delays checkmating, but it still works. So the king would line back up as the only move, and there's 4 ways to checkmate on this move. We could go directly in front of the king, which would be checkmate. We could go queen f1, checkmate. We could go queen e1, checkmate. We could go queen d1, checkmate. But instead of going down that line, instead of like chasing the king, which is what we would normally do, instead of that we've got a faster move to checkmate. We can just checkmate on the spot. The checkmating move is queen b2, checkmate. The king defends the queen. No matter what black does, they're going to be in check, so they're checkmated. Because also you need a check to have checkmate. In a different position, where there's no check, but you got no legal move, it's a stalemate. You need check in checkmate. Here there is a check from the queen, and black's can check no matter what when there's already a check. So this is checkmate. We've done our job, and again, we don't give meaningless checks in this position where we don't give check, 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 those kind of checks, because then the king goes over here. Yes, it's another edge of the board, which is what we want, but we don't want it because, why not just checkmate him on the spot? Why don't we just finish him off with queen b2? This is not as good, but it's still accurate, just a little less accurate. We could still continue to chase the king like we have been, which still works, just wasting an extra move and then checkmating with queen b2, queen f1, queen e1, queen d1. They're all checkmate. They all work. That's how you checkmate with king and queen. So I used opposition. I used both the king and queen to checkmate, both pieces to help each other checkmate their lone king. We got the king to the edge of the board, away from the centre, where he can't lose in the centre. We've got to put him on the edge of the board with these pieces. And yeah, I don't know how to describe opposition, but it's a very important concept in endgames. I really recommend looking up John Bartholomew, an international master at chess, which I'll talk about in the description. Thank you for watching. Bye.